Welcome back everyone. As most of you know by now, the Google Pixel 6 has officially came out, so let's go ahead and take a look at it and compare it against the Google Pixel 4 and see if it's a worthwhile upgrade between both phones. Now, the Pixel 6 brand new costs $599, the Pixel 4 costs $329, and on Amazon specifically. So if you want to pick up either one of these from there, I'll leave them both linked down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the front of both of these, displays. On the Pixel 4, we had a 5.7-inch POLED display, and it was actually not that bad of a panel. I was kind of a fan of it. You had a little bit of bezel at the top and bottom. And this thing looks so much like the Pixel 4a, or the 4a looks so much like the Pixel 4, it's not even funny. Now, you did have a 90Hz panel on this thing, and it was 1080p, so it was actually a pretty good panel. On the Google Pixel 6, on the other hand, we have a bigger 6.4-inch AMOLED display, and this one is also 1080p, and it's also 90Hz. Now, the design is a little bit different. You had overall more bezel, I think, on the Pixel 4. The Pixel 6 has that, hole punch display. The Pixel 4 had a bezel up top. Definitely not a problem with the Pixel 4. But I do think the Pixel 6 overall looks better. It definitely looks more like a Galaxy Note in my opinion than even like any of the Pixel series from before, which is actually really interesting in my opinion. So when it comes down to the panel up front, definitely the Pixel 6 wins. You also have a fingerprint sensor built into that display, which is awesome for that specific phone. So in terms of the back, that covers it up there. Now you also have a USB Type-C port on both of these phones, which is really cool. And you also have on the back a glass back on the Pixel 6, where the Pixel 4 kind of had a glass back that had like a texture over it. I actually really like that Pixel 4 back. I think it looked really cool and it felt really good in the hands. Although the Pixel 4, like I mentioned, feels good and all that, the Pixel 6 definitely is the winner here in terms of build quality. It feels so much better. I think it looks so much better too. You have IP certification on both phones, which is great. You have wireless charging on both phones as well, where the Pixel 6 apparently does have reverse wireless charging, which I didn't even know about. So definitely when it comes down to both, I am a fan of the Pixel 4. I think it feels good, and I think it looks good too, but the Pixel 6 is definitely the winner here. Now, another big thing to keep in mind between both phones is pretty much the longevity between them. Now, a really good thing about the Google Pixel series is that the software is very stock. There's not a lot of bloatware on it, so there's not a lot of just random stuff kind of happening in the background of your phone. The Pixel 6 is also stock Android. Now, when it comes down to how long both phones are going to last, on stock software from Google, the Pixel 6 is going to outlast the Pixel 4 by quite a bit of time. Because this Pixel 6 has Google's Tensor chipset inside, Google has actually promised 5 years of security updates, which makes me think either it's 4 years of OS updates or 3 years of OS updates. Either or, that's a long period of time. The Pixel 4 is still supported. It's definitely going to be getting Android 13, I think, and it may stop there. But the thing to keep in mind is with Pixel devices, there's a big development community behind it. There's a tons of custom ROMs, and there's just so much stuff out there that you can easily go and just, install a custom ROM if you want to. I wouldn't really recommend it because, like I mentioned, the security of your device is super, important. If you are aware of custom ROMing and stuff, then go for it. But on stock software, the Pixel 6 is definitely the winner here. So in terms of that covers it up there. Now, I do actually want to hit on the cameras of both of these phones. Now, with the Pixel 4, you actually did have a dual camera setup, so a 12.2 megapixel wide-angle lens and then a 16 megapixel telephoto lens, where the Pixel 6 has that 50 megapixel wide-angle lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. Now, here's the thing between both cameras. With the Pixel 4, I kind of think Google could have done a better job even at this point. I mean, this phone came out in 2019, and 4K at 30 on the back is pretty poor, with even 1080p on the front and 8 megapixel sensor on the front. I didn't really like that. I wasn't a fan of it. I don't think the camera was that bad, but compared to the other phones that have already came out, even like the iPhone 11s, where you could shoot 4K 60 on the front and the back of both of them, on this one, you couldn't really do that. And it didn't even have an ultra-wide sensor, which is what people preferred, and Google kind of bashed the ultra-wide sensor on that keynote, if you guys remember. Now, with the Pixel 6, we actually do get a wide-angle lens and an ultra-wide sensor. So no telephoto lens, but I prefer an ultra-wide sensor in my opinion. But the other thing to keep in mind is that you do actually have 4K at 60, at least on the back of the Pixel 6. The front is 1080p still, which I honestly am not a fan of. The Pixel 6 Pro did get 4K, which is good, but this one is still stuck at 1080p. I'm not a fan of that, but again, what are you going to do? We can't really do anything about it anymore. So when it comes down to these two, I would definitely say the Pixel 6 camera is better. The UIs are almost identical. The features are still kind of the same. You You do get things like Magic Eraser and different things like that on the Pixel 6, but I'm a fan of the Pixel 4 camera still. When I used it, it was good. When I still kind of pick it up and take pictures, even my Pixel 4a camera is actually really good too, which is surprising. So when it comes down to both of these, the Pixel 6 is the winner for sure. So in terms of that covers it up there. Now, performance-wise, this is probably one of the biggest differentiating factors between both these phones. Now, with the Pixel 4, you had that Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset with 6 gigs of RAM on each of the models. Now, the Pixel 6 has that new Google Tensor chipset with 8 gigs of RAM. Now, RAM aside, the difference in the chipset is pretty insane. Before, most of the Pixels, I think Google used the Snapdragon chipsets, and now that Google is making their own chipset, they can really go down and fine-tune so many different things of this chipset. And right now, the Pixel 6, it's really, I'm going to tell you like this. It's only slightly faster than the Pixel 5 for my test. It wasn't like a groundbreaking achievement, but this is the first chipset they've made for their Pixels. This is the first Google Tensor chipset. And if they're already a little bit faster than the Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G from last year, I think that's a pretty cool, I think that's a pretty good thing. I've compared it to the S21 as well, and it was pretty similar. So I think, for the future of this Google Tensor chipset, when version 2 and version 3 comes out, it's going to get better over time. I think with the Pixel 4, when it first came out, it was pretty fast because that was the best chipset of that time from Snapdragon, from Qualcomm. So the only thing that's kind of limiting it is the RAM now, but even 8 gigs, even 6 gigs of RAM is still perfectly fine, I think, on an Android device with stock Android. So both are great performing phones. I would definitely say the Google Pixel 6 is the better performing one, and the fact that we now have a phone where Google makes both the software and the hardware, that's a very awesome thing to have, because Google can go, and if there's an issue or if they want to go ahead and add some crazy cool feature, they have the ability of doing so, and they can really kind of give us a better experience with both the chipset and the software. And it's a win-win. It's a win-win for us because we get a more stable and just better powerful experience, and it's a win for Google because they can go ahead, they can save some money when they make their own chipsets, but also they can go ahead and license and sell these chipsets if they're actually really good, similar to the M1 chip. So in terms of that covers it up there. Now, ending it off with the battery life, this is the biggest difference, I think, between both phones. The Pixel 6 has a 4,614 mAh battery. The Pixel 4 has a 2,800 mAh battery. So we are seeing a massive difference between these two phones. So when it comes down to the battery segment, you're definitely getting a much better battery life from the Pixel 6 by a long shot than the Pixel 4. You're just getting a much bigger size battery. And if you guys remember, one of the biggest problems of the Pixel 4 was actually the battery life. And now the fact that we actually have a phone that can pretty much just, be one of the best phones at battery life this year, at least one of the biggest size batteries, is actually really impressive. Now, it still needs some time to actually iron out, for Google to iron out these issues, but I think it's totally okay for the most part. So in terms of that covers it up there. And to be completely honest, I am a huge fan of the Google Pixel 6. I think it's one of the best phones Google has ever made. It's one of my favorite Google Pixels, and I would definitely recommend you, if you're in the market, go pick up a Google Pixel 6. I will tell you, it's a much better phone than the Pixel 4. I think the Pixel 4 still has some capability, it's definitely not like unusable or anything, but like I mentioned, when it comes down to some of these phones, I don't know why they made the certain decisions that they made at that time. I think the battery life was one of the weirder things about the Pixel 4. So when it comes down to both of these, I would highly recommend you guys to go pick up a Pixel 6. It's definitely the better way to go. And if you have a Pixel 4, upgrading to the Pixel 6 is also a really good option as well. So in terms of that covers it up there. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.